Video game difficulty. Let's talk about it. Because recently, there was a brand new turn-based roguelike called Mewgenics that released that sparked this discussion and discourse, not only internally, but with my wife, and I saw other people discussing it online via Reddit and, Twitter and other random posts, and it just got me thinking, and this is something that I've thought about for the past several years, have changed my mind on. And with this video, I want to provide some other viewpoints and ideas that might change some people's minds or give them a different perspective on the matter, because I think it's important around more or less gatekeeping video games and their difficulty. So why did Eugenics spark this? Granted, it didn't spark it, it's just what recently reminded me of it. I've thought about it for the past several years, and it's thanks to my wife, actually, that I even really thought about any of this. Now, I'll talk about all that in a second, but the context for Mewgenics is there's this feature, save scum feature, where if you're in a battle, a fight, you're making your decisions, blah, 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 something happens, it's not good, and you want to restart the fight, you can Alt F4, leave the game, boot it back up, like almost any turn-based game. Some turn-based games save after every move, so that's not always possible, but majority of them allow this feature whether or not they want to, but it is there, and it's called save scumming, because, well, you're doing your save over and over until you get the... You know what I mean. But you see, when you do this in Eugenics, the next time you boot it up, you're actually greeted by this mysterious character who shames you, more or less. Yells at you, literally cusses at you. I'm not joking. It will call you a cheater. Will call you names, be like, how dare you, you filthy blah, blah, blah. I know what you're up to. You're trying to cheat and I don't like it. He'll give you one freebie per run. So say, okay, this time it's cool, but do it again and there'll be consequences. And there are. Every time you do it, the consequences get worse to the point where if you do it 4 times in a run, you literally can no longer even control your characters. They'll just do whatever. And people have been praising this. And if we're being honest, I find that crazy, wild, ridiculous. And if you're one of those people, hopefully you continue to watch this video so you understand where I'm coming from and you perhaps get that different perspective. Now, see, I've been guilty for most of my life being on the side of play the game the way it's meant to be played, okay? It's that way or the highway, whatever. Being a bit competitive. But it wasn't until my wife, who plays games differently, and also before meeting me hadn't played too many games herself, that it gave me a different perspective on how some people want to consume games or play games. That gave me this different perspective, and hopefully I can pass on to you if you're not thinking about it. Or perhaps you're also in this boat, and I want to reinforce the fact that you are valid. And you don't have to feel bad. And I'm going to try to get to everything in a reasonable amount of time. But the TLDR is... save scumming is fine. I said it. Do I save scum? I can think of, on my hand in my life the amount of times I've save scummed. Not usually. But when something catastrophically goes wrong, and if the game doesn't allow certain quality of life features, and I've spent a lot of time, sometimes, you know what? It's just nice it's there. Even if I don't usually use it. But in a game like Eugenics, for me personally, I saw this screen. But I didn't save scum. My game just crashed. During a fight. So what the game doesn't tell you is if you crash during a fight, you'll also get punished. And here's also what is super strange. The first time, my wife did it as well, is when you click escape and you're in a battle, it gives you an option that says save and quit to desktop. Okay. I'm in the middle of a fight, but I gotta go or I gotta do something else. I'll just resume this battle when I get back. Why am I getting yelled at? Oh. So when they say save and quit to desktop, they don't mean that, oh, you save your spot in the battle. It actually starts from before the battle, but then you get the penalty. So first off, it's already misleading. But I have a couple gripes with Eugenics because there's a lot of quality of life features that I think it's missing that a lot of turn-based games have that can lead to a lot of inconsequential mistakes. Or not inconsequential, but unintended. Stuff like not previewing what will happen in a combat. If I hover an enemy with an attack, it doesn't tell me how much health they'll lose or what will happen to them or me. And there's a lot of stuff in this game that aren't explained super well, and it's a trial by fire, but when that trial by fire kills your cat or something, that feels pretty bad. But there are no undo buttons at all. So you misclick or you do something and you didn't realize that this is how it worked. Like, here's a good example. You can have different classes of cats, and I happen to have a necromancer who rolled a passive trait called seppuku, where if he gets downed, he heals his allies and damages the enemies. And he also gets an ability called seppuku, which will down himself. So if he wants, and it's desperate, he can down himself, heal his allies, damage the enemies. You know, it's sort of a desperate play, but he'll get downed, and after the fight, if you win, he'll come back, but with an injury. So he doesn't die. There's 2 states to a cat in the game, right? Downed, and then dead. So logic would dictate, if I were to use the seppuku ability, I would down myself, not kill myself, heal my allies, damage the enemies. Sounds good, right? So, one fight. It looked like that was a good option to do, so I clicked it. He killed himself. Gone. He didn't down, he just exploded. My teammates didn't get healed. The enemy didn't take damage. That was it. He was gone forever. What? Was that intended? Because if so, you managed to misword every possible place and make sure that it was as misleading as possible. And oh, there's no undo. That's just it. And now your whole run, which, by the way, I was 2 hours into, it's cooked. I could not win after that because of the consequence and what it led to. It was irreversible. Skill issue, I guess, right? So my point is, there are always a lot of possible reasons. Someone might need something like an undo button, or a redo turn, reset battle, or to just exit and try the fight again. So aside from my gripes with the game, being these like quality life features, lack of clarity, and all this sort of stuff where something happens, for instance, I had one run where I got to the end of the last biome, or world, whatever, it was like a 3-hour run. Something happened that I didn't think was going to happen in the way, sort of like the seppuku ability, and everyone died, and it was over. And then I got nothing. I had nothing to show for it. 3 hours, just poof. Doesn't feel great, you know? But see, now all my reasons aside, I got another perspective, again, thanks to my wife, who had been excited to try the game out. She likes turn-based games. One of her first games she really loved was Fire Emblem 3 Houses, or whatever that was. So she likes turn-based games, she likes roguelikes, and she likes cats. So this seemed like a perfect match for her. She was super excited. She wanted to breed cats, you know, all that fun stuff. And she didn't last very long. She lasted maybe a couple hours. She kept trying, but just kept bouncing off. And why is that? Because of this feature. Now, I know a common response is, a skill issue, or, okay, just don't play the game, it's not meant for you, and all these other various reasons. And I'm going to try to address all of those in the best way that I can to hopefully convince you that there's much more to it. Believe it or not, after hearing that from my wife, I did not tell her skill issue. Proof, we're still married. But it reminded me of the video game difficulty discussion again. And I actually asked her if she'd be willing to write out some of her thoughts about why she doesn't like the system in a way that can hopefully portray her perspective better than I could communicate. So I do have some points here as to Mewgenics. But I also want to point out that this isn't just related to Mewgenics. And I'll talk about some other games that I think do it right after I bring up some of her points. So her first one was what I mentioned. At first, it's presented as a save and quit feature. So the first time you do it, you literally thought you would save and come back and resume the fight later, but the guy, his name is Steve, he pops up. And the thing is, even with that first grace period, it's super shamey. It is. It's not just like, hey, don't do that. Like, he literally just, like, degrades you and shames you and says you're cheating. Which, again, for me, I'm like, why am I seeing this, bro? That game crashed. But anyway, people are arguing that this feature is fine and okay because they have one built-in freebie. But without difficulty scaling, it's still a my way or the highway vibe, which is not what she thought she was signing up for. And this is a big thing I want to drive home for. she isn't saying that every game should pander to her, that every game should accommodate her. But there are reasons she lists as to why she thought this game wouldn't be that kind of game. Specifically in a case of like Eugenics, with a combination of the genre being turn-based and the art style marketed as fun, quirky, goofy, very unserious, and about just a bunch of cats, seems accessible to a larger range of gamers, rather than if you saw some gothic horror third-person action boss rush game, you'd probably be like, this one seems a little more hard. This kind of seems like a Souls game. Okay, you know what you're signing up for. But I think it's a good point and speaks to certain marketing tactics and whatnot. But if you were to look at this turn-based game about cats and some cute, quirky graphics with some strange humor, okay, I didn't think this was going to be a ball buster that would shame me and cuss at me if I try to save scum. Because also, with the genre turn-based, this is a feature, quote unquote, whether people like it or not. It's something you can do in almost every turn-based game, or again, they offer you something to allow you to go back on certain mistakes just in case. Like my favorite example is Into the Breach. You played that. It's one of my favorite roguelikes. It's a turn-based roguelike. Insanely hard. Every game is essentially just like this crazy puzzle. But even that gives you, I think, 1 or 2 undos. Granted, the entire fight. But they also know that there's so much going on, there's so much at stake. At certain points during the run, something will accidentally happen, and you get an undo or 2. And it's still insanely hard. But anyway, add on to the fact that it is a single-person game. And the way she puts it, her playstyle doesn't affect anyone else. And she's right. If these were multiplayer games we're talking about, you know, difficulty in multiplayer games, that's completely different. Because now, your playstyle is affecting somebody else. If you were to do something scummy, quote unquote, that could have rippling effects that could negatively impact somebody else's gameplay. Which, fair, yeah. But in single player, that's not the case. And in fact, she wrote this whole little rant here that I'm going to read verbatim, trying my best to put her spirit into it. So she says, end quote, "Yes, I'm bad. I get it. There's an argument for just getting good, which is fine if that's what the developers want, but I would rather you be upfront about that so I can choose not to buy your game at the start. This is what I don't understand about the people that gatekeep how games need to be played. There are genres of games that are literally all about beating your head against a wall, and I love that for you. I will never play a Souls game, or Silksong, or Celeste, because I would never recover from that concussion, but I like watching them be played, and I'm thrilled that they exist for you. For the most part, however, games come with difficulty settings for a reason. Games are art, and a lot of their beauty is in the shared experience. There's a whole wide world of people with a range of skill sets and interests, and if I want to decompress by going on runs with my cats and save scumming so they don't die and I lose 2 hours of work, then so be it. If anyone can tell me how exactly that negatively impacts them, then I'm all ears. If the answer is some mumbo-jumbo about the integrity of gaming, however, then my answer is, it's a game, boyo. It is quite literally a game. Am I on a professional cat mutating esports team? No, and then amateur level games are almost always about having fun. Why do you care so much about how I have fun? Maybe you should try out therapy. This obviously goes a lot deeper than a game about cat genetics, and I think the main issue is people praising the shaming of save scumming because there's a, quote, right way to play a game. Stop making people feel bad or lesser for wanting to share in an experience at a level or in a way that feels accessible and fun to them. Now, personally, I kind of think mic drop moment. I mean, she said pretty much everything she needs to say, well, eloquently. My wife's based. I love her. But she's right in also ways, I just don't think about. For a lot of people, video games are an escape and a way to decompress. They're looking to unwind and have fun. And I know in ways that, like my wife talks about, she doesn't need to be yelled at in games. She doesn't need to lose or have her balls busted and to face something super hard because life already supplies plenty of that. There's no shortage of that in life. So most people don't want to have to experience that as well in their video games. They want to escape all of that. And I mentioned there were some other games that I think do a good job of this. One of them is Baldur's Gate 3. If you haven't played that or you don't know it, you're living under a rock, but it's a sort of tabletop RPG based off of D&D, and so it has turn-based combat. And not only that, but throughout the entire game, there are all these checks you do that check your abilities. So if I wanted to, I don't know, see if there's some hidden item behind this rock or something, you know, you have to use a perception check. You roll dice. If you get high enough, hey, you figured it out. If you didn't, no, you failed and you'll just never know. So, obviously, in that game, people save scum all the time. They save right before they got to do a check, and will do it until they get the thing that they want. And at the beginning, for me, I was like, that's not fun. Why would you do that? That's like the whole point is you just roll with what you get, and that's it, baby. That's how literally the dice roll. But as she pointed out, but that's not what she wants to do. And it also means sometimes she would miss out on a lot of content. I mean, it's true. There are some checks that if you miss, you actually miss a sizable chunk of the game because the game's crazy like that, and they don't mind hiding tons of content they worked on behind this or some hidden item or whatever, which makes the game great. But it's her game. And she would rather just get to experience everything or have the outcomes the way she would want them. And the reason I say Baldur's Gate 3 does it well, I think, is because you can do that. Fine. But then there's a mode in the game called Honor Mode. And Honor Mode, kind of what you sound like. Play honorably in the sense that you play with the way the die lay. That's a way to put it. But essentially, you have no choice. The game forces you to take the outcomes of every dice roll. If at any point you restart, you try to go back, first off, I don't even think Honor Mode will allow you. And if you end up dying, then you can continue your Honor Mode. Save, I suppose I should say, you can continue your save, but it won't be an Honor Mode anymore. Because you died, you had your one shot, and now you can reroll dice or whatever. But so essentially, if you beat an Honor Mode, for all those people who, for whatever reason, they like want to show off, be like, look, here's a save file, I beat it on Honor Mode. And that tells everyone that they did it exactly the way the game was intended, or that they wanted to. They played it on harder difficulty, essentially. And to be fair, Honor Mode adds like the if you want that save, you have to go through without losing your entire party. So that's a whole other thing, but it also means, yeah, you never save scum because you didn't even have the chance. The game didn't allow you to. And so that's there for those people. That's great. I think that's a good medium ground, because then everybody else can play the normal and they can save scum if they want. Because here's the thing. I could go through the normal game, not Honor Mode, and never reroll once. And that's my experience. And I got to play it the way I want it to. But I'm not going to go around trying to gatekeep and being like, no. But see, I played it without, you can't save scum. You can't do that. Oh, actually, no, you can. Because you get to experience the way you want to experience it. And I get to experience it the way I want to experience it. Hades 1 and Hades 2 does something called God Mode, where every time you die, if you have it enabled, after every death, I think it gives you a stacking buff, a permanent stacking buff of damage resistance and damage dealt. And it will get to a max point where your damage dealt is like 200% and you take 80% less damage. You have to die like 80 times, but every time it keeps making you more powerful to the point where like it's almost impossible to fail. Some people be like, well, then what's the point? That's not even fair. Well, guess what? That's the only way my wife was able to enjoy Hades 1 and Hades 2, because for her, the combat was too frantic and too much, and while she did like it, she didn't love it. But in the case of Hades 1 and Hades 2, for anybody that knows, a huge appeal of that game is not just the gameplay, but the lore, the story, the characters. And that essentially gives people like my wife a way to enjoy the entire game, albeit not in the exact way that it was originally designed or whatever, but in a way that works for them so that they can still plug in with it, like my wife mentioned. Games are art form. I think one of my favorite examples of recent memory, though, is Elden Ring. Because it's a Souls game. And, well, famously, we all know how Souls games go. But Elden Ring is different in that, if you ask me, it has a modular difficulty. Not in the sense that you can just click a slider or change a setting to go from normal to hard to easy, like some games do. But because you can essentially approach the game and every fight the way you want to. And you can make the fight as easy or as hard as you would like. Essentially because they added into the game that almost every boss there is a unique item somewhere that if you were to find it and get it and bring it, it disables something, like frickin' Millennium. Hated that fight. Little did I know, I wouldn't have used it either way, but there's an item that if you were to bring it, and see, I don't say that, I should also preface, I don't say it as like I am holier or mightier than thou, and I'm gatekeeping, and be like, if you use this, you frickin' suck, dude. No. But that's why I like Elden Ring. I gotta fight her the way I wanted to fight her in the challenge that I wanted, but I don't expect everyone else to do that. But so my point is, you bring this item to Millennia, and apparently it disables her waterfowl dance. If you don't know what her waterfowl dance is, good. You clearly haven't had to go into therapy. You don't have that trauma. But if you do, then you know what I'm talking about. And that's like the only reason that Millennia fight is freaking so stupid. But bring this item, boom. You don't have to worry about that ability anymore. That's crazy that it's in there. And it's optional, so who cares? If you don't want to use it, don't. But for those that do, hey, it's there for you. Like every boss has a weakness to usually like some sort of affinity, right? Like maybe you get a burn potion for this guy or a certain weapon, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, there is no right way to go about fights in Elden Ring. And if you want to get a magic build where you start the battle, you pop some buffs, and you Kamehameha and like one-shot the boss, you can. Now, to me, that sounds boring. That's not fun for me. I want to bash my head against a wall using some dumb rinky-dinky melee weapon and like no shield and doing some stupid challenge. But not, in fact, well, most sane people don't want to do that. And so they don't have to. And so people still get to enjoy the game in the way that they want. But it's unlike some other Souls games, and I mentioned Souls just because those are traditionally very gatekeepy. Oh, you beat that? Oh, but you use this? Pfft. Oh, you did that, but it took you this many tries? Pfft. Oh, you did it, but it was this far into the game? Huh. Well, I did it. Cool, man. I love that for you. That's cool for you, but I did it differently. And like that, and that's it. It would be different if there's some, like she mentioned, esport, leaderboards, something like that. Then there should be some standardized way to play it so that it's fair for everyone. You know, in the same way that speedrunning categories have glitchless percentage, or full glitch, or any percent, like all this sort of stuff to make it fair to show everyone, okay, well, this is what is acceptable in these things and what is not. It's community decided, all that sort of stuff. But that's just why I don't get it. And to be fair, I'm not saying you should feel bad. I'm just trying to open your eyes to what it's like for other people. Because for me, I'm more of that competitive, you know, if something's too hard, well then clearly I just got to beat my head against it enough times until I beat it. Like I see it as a challenge. But most people don't, and they don't want to see it like that. But that's also why, like my wife mentioned, most Souls game, in fact, well, she's never played a Souls game. She probably never will. Not even Elden Ring. That doesn't interest her enough, and that's also partly, though, because of story. So that's why I think adding ways for people to be able to play the game the way they want to is just a net positive. Because it allows more people to interact with your game and your art in a way that works for them. But I'm not saying that every game should. But games, for instance, with rich stories and characters, with immersive worlds and experiences, I think those are games that can benefit from this sort of modular difficulty, because then people like my wife can enjoy those games. But if it's just a game about boss rushes, my wife has no interest. And she's not asking for that game to allow her to play it, essentially. Like, that's just too hard, I don't have any interest, whatever. But you make a game like Hades, Hades without the story and the characters, well, it wouldn't be Hades, but my point is my wife's not just going to play it. I come from a standpoint of I play the game for the gameplay. The story and the characters, that's extra. If that ends up being cool, sick. But I'm not going to play your game if your story and characters are cool, but the gameplay's pfft. But my wife's the exact opposite. And the whole point is there is a spectrum of gamers. And my wife and I are just two examples. There are so many different people that play games for different reasons, consume games differently. Imagine you're a parent, a father, a mother, but you love games. But now you maybe get 30 minutes here and there, like every other day, or maybe 2 hours a week or something. So you go to sit down, and imagine you want to plug into something and have some fun, but then the game doesn't respect it, so to speak. And that would it just feels bad. And you feel like and so you start to gravitate away and towards different games because of reasons like this, where if the games didn't, people would still be able to enjoy them. And so again, I just want to make it clear. I'm not saying that all games need to appeal to everyone, right? I think some games, in fact, are right. Like, it is, at the end of the day, the artist's, quote-unquote, choice, in this case, a game developer usually, their vision. That if this is their game, and this is how they see it, and this is how they want you to play it, fine. But just realize that could turn a lot of people off. And that's fine. Again, so that's cool. But I think Eugenics offers this interesting discussion because it's a bit more nuanced, given everything within it. And so I think Eugenics could go the route of Baldur's Gate. If people want Steve to be shaming them, cool. Have him toggle it. I don't know. Or have it so that if it's toggled, maybe you get a little extra rewards or whatever. Or it's just straight up a difficulty. You start a new run and you can either do, normal or honor. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever, normal or Steve mode. And so normal, you go through it, boom. But if you go through it the other one, maybe you get a different icon or something, so the people who can be like, hoity-toity, well, I played the freaking blah, blah, blah. So they can do that. But the whole point here is, why yuck somebody's yum if it doesn't affect you at all? Now, granted, I guess I also come from that standpoint because essentially my life's mantra is do what you love as long as it doesn't affect anybody else in a negative way. I don't care who you are, what you do, how you interact, any of that. I don't care about any of that stuff. If you enjoy it, great. As long as it doesn't negatively impact anybody else. So you do you, right? And so in this case, I don't care how you play the game. If that's how you have fun, sick. And in the same way that you want to play super hard, cool. But then don't go shaming other people for it. What's that got to do with you, man? It doesn't bother you, so just let them enjoy themselves. I don't know. It may seem like I'm getting heated or something about this or whatever. But, well, I'm a little protective of my wife. And it was just reading these threads. It was specific. I specifically opened up Reddit to find this thing on my homepage that was a post literally praising this Steve mechanic. Be like, oh, this is genius. Oh, I love this. Every game should have this. But again, you fail to account for the people who are just playing a game to have fun. And they weren't told up front that this is what would be happening. I know for me, that would devastate me. Okay? When my parents told me they were disappointed, I can practically tell you every single time they did that because it stuck with me. And in a weird way, even when I had my game crash and Steve was yelling at me, that kind of didn't sit, he was literally yelling and shaming at me, and I'm like, I didn't even save scum for this. But even if I did, I don't know. I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions. And again, if you still think that this Steve mechanic is totally right, that is, you have your right to your opinion. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below as to why. But I hope if this video is nothing else, it just gives people some perspective and a reminder to just be a little kinder, and to remember that not everyone goes through life and consumes everything and thinks the same way that you do. And I need that reminder from time to time. It always helps to get a look into somebody else's shoes. And again, like with my wife, because for the longest time I played games the way I played, and it's like, well, yeah, you just got to beat your head against the wall. And well, I'm not going to do that because that's cheating or something. They're video games. At the end of the day, they're escapes for most people, myself included. They're there for people to have fun, to engage in a different art form. And the more people that get to do that, well, heck, the better.